The House Intelligence Committee has released its report on their impeachment hearings. Democrats concluding President Trump misused his office for election help from Ukraine. The White House reacting to the report with this. At the end of a one-sided sham process, Chairman Schiff and the Democrats utterly failed to produce any evidence of wrongdoing by President Trump. This report reflects nothing more than their frustrations. Chairman Schiff's report reads like the rambling of a basement blogger straining to prove something when there's evidence of nothing. On that note, I'd like to bring in Trump 2020 Senior Legal Advisor Jenna Ellis, Democratic strategist Kevin Walling. All right, Jenna, that was a heck of a statement from the Trump administration. A basement blogger, a frustrated basement blogger. I wonder if they had cold pizza there, too. But what do you make of it?
Oh, yeah, I think it was perfectly said. And I love that the White House is coming out strong. And they're saying what everybody is thinking, right? This is nothing more than an impeachment circus. They had these so-called fact witnesses that didn't really witness anything. And the two people maybe who were on the call and witnessed something, it was just their own perceptions, their perspectives. So let's get one thing straight. There is absolutely no evidence of wrongdoing. You had in Time magazine, President Zelensky coming out talking about his disagreement in foreign policy, saying he was not pressured at all. Right. There is no evidence whatsoever of a high crime or misdemeanor. And the fact that now tomorrow in this next hearing, they're having to bring forward, now let's bring forward 4 constitutional law attorneys, which, by the way, I should have been invited, just saying I'd love to go. But all they're going to do is then talk about what's the definition of high crime and misdemeanor. Maybe you should have figured that out before you started the inquiry.
Kevin, I do find it intriguing that this report boils down. It essentially goes back to the call and the transcript of the call in the term, do me a favor, or you know, I want to ask you for a favor. That's where we were at the very beginning of this. All of those witnesses, they didn't cite any of these witnesses or new information to, and this part of the message seems to be where they failed, at least with the general public.
Yeah, it's a good point, Charles. You know, it's a 300-page report that I think methodically lays out over the course of 6 months the president's abuse of power with regards to the firing of our sitting ambassador for no good apparent reason because Rudy Giuliani.
The president can do that.
Sure, yeah. He can, but again, present a reason why. I think is part of this process, and there was no reason why.
Kevin, I mean, you're a very reasonable guy. Sure. That this amounts to a bunch it's circumstantial at best. I mean, I know this is not a criminal law case, but to the American public, it is. It sounds like, you know, we're talking about removing the president of the United States from office.
It's a huge high bar.
It is a high bar, and it seems like you have a bunch of interpretations of actions, a bunch of circumstantial things, but there's no smoking gun, nothing even close to a smoking gun.
Here's what we need, and actually, I was happy to see the president over in Europe at the NATO summit saying he would like to see Mick Mulvaney, the acting chief of staff, testify. He'd like to see Rick Perry, the former Secretary of Energy, even the Secretary of State, come forward and provide testimony, at least in the Senate phase of impeachment, if the process goes forward. The president wants to see that happen. They're in the room. They're the ones that were involved in that quid pro quo. Right. Let's hear from them.
Well, if that's the case, they may also ask for other witnesses, Jenna, including Hunter Biden, Chairman Schiff himself. We'll see where this saga goes, but I do have to ask you about the breaking news right before we came on the air. Kamala Harris apparently out of the race. She bolted right after the first debate, but her campaign never really had any traction. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing for me, right? Because it's missed expectations, right? We remember her kickoff in Oakland, California. 25,000 people in the streets of California coming out to support her campaign, and it really went nowhere, right? She, as you said, Charles, she had that great moment in the first debate, but really couldn't capitalize on it in the last 3 debates that we saw.
Jenna, to a degree, it reminded me of a little bit of Hillary Clinton in the sense that vote for me, I'm a woman, but in this case, vote for me, I'm a black woman. And behind it, there were never any real ideas out there that I could see that the American public could associate with Kamala Harris.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, Tulsi Gabbard here really took her down in some of those debates. And so I think that really derailed her campaign. But also, the American people are reasonable. Generally speaking, they're not going to vote for someone just based on identity politics. They want to see substance. They want to see someone who is qualified for president. And that's why you see with President Trump's accomplishments, you see more and more and more people going into 2020 proudly supporting him because he's America first. Everything that you just interviewed the vice president for, congratulations on that, by the way.
It was a
great interview. And that's what the American people want from a president.
Well, it's exciting and never dull moments. Great seeing both of you in person in D.C.
Welcome to D.C.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I got to get out of here before I get corrupted. All right, folks.